Hello again, everyone. My name is David Bastel, alongside AREA President David Oikel, and this is the Real Estate Edition podcast. Coming up on this episode, we talk with Tania Artenosi, realtor and broker of record, and also Paula Allen, who is the global leader of research and total well-being at LifeWorks. David, we talked about a lot of different subjects, and they were fantastic. Some of them including common issues we have faced during the pandemic and still continue to this day. Also, that very important life-work balance.
Yeah, it was a great conversation. Mental well-being is prominent in all our thinking. And Tanya shared some very personal experiences and stories that we can all relate to and benefit from her experiences. And Paula had some very practical tips on how to improve our mental well-being. And I think that everybody will benefit from the conversation. It was a really terrific talk.
LifeWorks is an online mental health and well-being program. It's free to all AREA members. Also, a reminder to subscribe to the Real Estate Edition podcast where you are listening. Now, here's our conversation with Tanya and Paula.
You're listening to this month's episode of The Real Estate Edition with host Dave Bastel and AREA President David Oikel.
So good to talk to both of you. Can you start by telling our listeners a little bit about yourself? And Tanya, we'll start with you.
Great, thanks. Tania Artenosi. I'm the broker of record and owner of Coldwell Banker, the Real Estate Center. And I'm also the director at large with the Ontario Real Estate Association, going into my second year. And so, I love all things brokerage and real estate and realtors. And I'm really passionate about organized real estate. So thanks for having me.
And I'll jump in. I'm Paula Allen. I'm the global leader of research and total well-being at LifeWorks. And I've been with the organization for a number of years and, starting my entire career, have really focused on mental health and well-being in one way or another. Actually, I started out working with kids and then moved to adults. You learn everything that you need to know about adults by focusing on kids. And just happy to be here, happy that we're doing this podcast on these issues.
Terrific. We're here today to talk about mental health and well-being in honor of World Mental Health Day on October the 10th. I know it's been difficult on many of us. I know many of my clients have struggled. So Paula, can you talk about the impact mental health has had on the broader population as a whole during the pandemic?
Yeah, it's such an important question. And I think very often we hear in media, yes, there's been a mental health impact and things of that sort, almost so much that we're not really paying attention to what that actually means. And it's a very, very big deal for all of us. So with what the pandemic brought, all the change, all the uncertainty, all the ups and downs, you're on fire one minute and then you're cold another minute, you're dealing with kids, it's a lot. And one of the things that we do at LifeWorks is that we actually look at the mental health of the working population, and we've seen a measurable decline since prior to the pandemic. So more anxiety, more depression, a doubling of risk in the population. So the proportion of the population that's at high risk. And everyone else, even if you're not in the high risk category, we're seeing measurable edge. So that feeling that you're a little bit more attuned to stress, you're responding more, you're feeling it more. So it really has had a significant impact on all of us.
Yeah, it really has. Edge is probably the best word to first describe something like that. Tanya, can you maybe talk a little bit about the impact the pandemic has had on your mental health as a realtor? Because I guess edge might be a way of starting that off as well.
Right. And definitely it is edge, right? Because you in the real estate world, so I'm a broker owner. I actually don't actually go out and sell real estate, but I have 209 salespeople that report to me. So, I'm their coach, I'm their confidant, I'm the person that they talk to without any judgment, right? You just pick up the phone, call me, and I just listen. And I I can't tell you how many of my realtors called me. What I find really interesting is that at the beginning, like March 2020, going into June, everybody was like, we're in lockdown, but we're going to work and we're going to get through it. I'm going to be superpower, and I got it, and I'm under control. And then as June turned into August, September, and now we're getting into the winter, agents started calling me. I'd be like, hey, how's it going? And there'd be silence.
Mm-hmm.
And I just sit there and say, you know what? Let it out. Like, let's just put it all out there. You got to cry. Let the cry out. Men, women, it didn't matter. And that was how I was dealing with a lot of salespeople. They had all the good intentions, and it became burnout. And there were a lot of them, when you say edge, who were all just said to me, I've been doing great. I've been really managing, but now I don't know. My business is thriving. I'm doing it. I'm going through the motions, but Tanya, I don't know. Like, it's not feeling right inside of me. There's something, and a lot of them was just like, just cry. Can you just cry it out? And we'd sit on the phone and cry together. Because I would just tell my people, like, there's no judgment here. I'm not super mom. I mean, I remember the first time I was practicing for our conference, Paula, the first one we did, and I'll never forget. They were asking me the questions, and I started crying. And I'm like, what? Me cry? Why am I crying? I've got this all under control. But really, I actually had to sit with myself and listen to what I was saying and say, I really don't have all of it under control. So I think, salespeople had a lot to deal with, in the sense that they had to manage their clients' emotions. So I was managing their emotions and helping them through it. And they were like, I never have to manage client fear this way, or client uncertainty this way, and then deal with my kids at home, and how do I do this, Tanya, and like, what can we do? And so it was a lot of that, and it's still a lot of that. I just think, the good weather was around, so people were outdoors a little bit more. But yeah, it was something I never experienced or thought that I would be on the edge. And it was really there. But like I said, towards the middle and now leading into it. I know I'm rambling, but it was just so much I want to say there.
No, there's lots. It's really very good.
They're doing a good job. They're really trying. It's interesting to see how all they control in their business. And this just, added a lot of, I just think, uncertainty inside them, because I don't know what other word to use. And lots of crying, but not because we're sad. Like, yes, we're sad, but because that was the only way they knew how to release in order to have a conversation. And I'm like, it's great. I don't care if you're 5 or you're 50 or 70. Let's cry it out together. No problem. I've learned it. I'm good. We can do this together.
It's good that you've heard from your colleagues, because it's no surprise that you have. So outside of like client emotions, just like you said, I think that was a really good way of saying it. Is that probably the most common issue that they were facing, in your opinion, when you kind of look at the big, broad scope of things?
So I think it was one of them, but I think the other things they were facing is, as much as technology is in our face as realtors, and we are promoting the use of it, I learned that there were still a lot of realtors like myself, I'm one of them, that we were hesitant towards technology and what that meant in our business. And we had to change the way we were thinking. Right now we're going into virtual open houses.
Yep.
I don't know. This is a human to human business. I work well in front of you. Now I can't be. How do I deal with Zoom? So technology and that shift from going to in-person versus Zoom, FaceTime, or what other fancy apps are out there. That was a big deal for them too. And then it really came down to, what was my business going to look like? Was I going to have a business? Was the pandemic going to take my income away? How was my family going to survive? None of us could foresee the way this market is going. It looks great, but it's not great for everybody. The real estate market is so diverse. You have buyer agents, listing agents, client relationship agents. There's so many facets to real estate. While it looks great in the headlines, it's not great for everybody. And that volume And that demand, it was a demand. You have to help me find something. I have to sell this. I don't want people in my house. Oh, I don't care if you do open houses. Follow protocol. It was a challenge to get into a routine that was going to work to help our clients and help ourselves be comfortable. We're a human business, face to face. That's how we get it done. And that was taken away from us, in person, and we had to adjust to going online. And there was a lot of coaching around that. And, we got through it. We did a great job. But it was just more than managing client relationship. It was managing our business and then managing our family at home. And that's a whole other topic about kids being at home.
Yeah.
And now your mom, your dad, your teacher, your gym teacher, your science, and you're doing business. I mean, real estate's diverse and we do a lot. So yeah, there was a lot of stuff there.
And before I ask Paula a question, I can just comment, and people ask me how I'm doing. I don't know what normal mental health is, if I can think back to 2 years ago. Like what is normal, right? I think I'm okay, but I don't, how do you compare it to what you might have been like a couple of years ago? Mm-hmm. Paula, what impact does physical separation have on mental health?
Actually, it has a fairly significant impact on mental health. Like, I hate to do an extreme analogy, but solitary confinement is considered a punishment for a reason. We are very, very social beings. And even though it's true that you don't necessarily have to have a physical connection in order to feel connected, it's typically the way that we do feel connected. You have a shared experience. You can see people's reaction. You can give someone else a hug. You can. It's very different than if you're even psychologically connected, but not physically in the same place. And it's a big deal not to have that. I think one of the biggest risks is that we actually, as a society, even before the pandemic, had started to become more isolated. We can do a lot of things by ourselves. We don't necessarily have to go out of the house, real estate agents accepted, but there's a lot of things in people's personal lives where we haven't really been feeling that level of connection. And we've seen it measured over the past 15 to 20 years declining. Like our level of connection with others has been declining, and it's been impacting our mental and our physical health. And the pandemic, I think, has really just exacerbated that. So I do think that we need to be intentional. Just like in the old days, you didn't need to be intentional about your physical exercise because you worked in the fields and you walked everywhere because that's just the way it was. A number of years ago, we didn't have to be intentional about making sure that we didn't feel isolated because you literally couldn't survive without other people and they couldn't survive without you. And that's not necessarily the way that we're feeling as a society right now. And that's not necessarily, the way our kids are experiencing life. So we have to be intentional about those connections. So, I think this is such an important thing, because it's not just about physical health. Surgeon General in the U.S. basically says it's a major health issue on the verge of on the scale of smoking constantly. There's a minister of loneliness in the UK because it's such a public health issue. There's studies that say that if you have that sense of connection with somebody else, you can manage a whole lot more stress. So great on Tanya for being there for her people, because that connection is important to have people cope. But if you don't have that, or if you don't have that in all the critical areas of your life, then it not only impacts your mental health, it actually impacts your cardiovascular health. It impacts your immune system. So it's enough strain that it puts strain on your body and impacts your physical health as well.
Paula, can you talk about emotional exhaustion? What is it, and how do we combat it?
Yeah, again, great question. And I think Tanya sort of set it up really well. Because we're at a point right now where emotional exhaustion is prevailing. And how it happens is that whenever there's a strain, whenever there's a crisis or something out of the ordinary and something that's a challenge, many of us go into hero mode. And you described that well, Tanya. It actually builds up our adrenaline because we have to get the job done. We have to do X, Y, and Z. We're hypervigilant because we're paying attention. You've got news reports going on because you want to know what's going on all the time. Like the level of attention, and we do see it as like the hero phase. And that adrenaline keeps you going for a while, but it is not possible. It isn't physically possible because adrenaline's a hormone. It's not possible to actually sustain that in your body. You have to have it flushed out. It goes away. And when you do have the adrenaline drop, wow, do you ever feel exhausted?
Yeah.
You are depleted. You've put so much emotional energy just in day-to-day life before that you just don't have the energy to go on. So all of that kind of, intense emotion, intense activity, it 100% of the time, it leads to this drop, this emotional exhaustion. And again, we started to, in spring of 2020, we saw a lot of the hero stuff. In the fall of 2020, we started to see a lot of this drop. And you're right. I mean, if it lasts long enough, if you don't get the support that you need, if you can't replenish yourself, then it does lead to burnout. If you don't feel even motivated, and not because you're not motivated, you don't even have the energy to be motivated. So this is where we need other people, because very often, I can come and I can say, I can give you the steps. Like if you feel this way, you have to add variety in your life. You have to reach out, you have to seek, support from a professional, even just for a little bit, like one session to help you get to the next step. But so often when we're in that state of exhaustion, just getting out of bed is hard. Just doing the tasks that you need to do is hard. You can't think of other thing to do. And that's why we have to look out for each other and help each other through that phase, because that very often is what makes things better.
We will be back after this short break.
Join the AREA Realtor research community to have your say when it comes to the services AREA provides, the recommendations we make to the government, and the strategic priorities of the association. You'll receive exclusive content and be entered into monthly draws every time you complete a survey. Visit joinarearesearch.com to sign up and join an exclusive community of realtors making a difference. joinarearesearch.com.
Tanya, it almost seems that what Paula was talking about, all of us have, no matter what occupation you have here in life, have had some form of it, some higher, some lower, and everything of that nature. Have you experienced any of this, managing a large group of people? And if so, what has kind of helped you through this, and what has got you back on track to be you?
So if any broker owners are listening, they'll know that this position on a good day is a lonely position. Okay. So I was really gung ho. I mean, I'm telling you, 2020 was a year where like my energy was up here. Right. I had all the answers for my agents. I was looking out for them. I was taking their calls at 6 o'clock in the morning. I was taking their calls at 12 o'clock at night because they needed me. And in between there, I was being mom. I was being teacher. I was being wife. I was being daughter to, elderly parents who don't drive, taking them right. Like it was a rat race, and I was not stopping. There was no stopping me. But around Christmas time, where we usually go away as a family, and that didn't happen, I got tired. I got really tired. I mean, I was just looking, I'm like, I did all this work, and this wasn't supposed to last this long.
Mm-hmm.
I should be able right now. Like I did all this work, and this shouldn't be happening. And I should be away with my family right now. This is my time. Like I was having a temper tantrum with myself. So I spent a good couple of months, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, right? I had all the books, but I didn't have, I just didn't know who my support was, right? Like who could I talk to? Who could I confide in? And that was my big challenge, because a lot of people don't understand. I mean, mother to mother and wife to wife, you've got a big support unit. But in the business world, broker owner trying to find another broker owner, that relationship, it's not there where there's confiding. So you're alone on a good day. So when I joined being a director with REA, and LifeWorks came up, and then I was asked to, start presenting, I still hadn't, because I hadn't paid attention, right? I was too busy in my head with other people to worry about me. So I downloaded the app, because I was like, if I'm going to present, I better know what I'm doing. And I downloaded the app, and I did the questionnaires. So there's 4 questionnaires, 2 minutes each one, and it asks you the questions you don't want to ask yourself.
Right.
I don't want to ask these. I don't want to know. I don't want to know this about me. No, I'm good. I got this all right. I'm all about controlling myself so that I'm good for everybody else. And I know people can relate to this. And Paula's smiling at me, right? I'm good at that. Like, I'm good at this, but I wasn't being good. So that's what I did. And I cried with myself. Like you had no idea. And then I started going on the site, and I just started to read the articles, find the books, and that's where I stopped, because I just did. I found like what that for me was enough. I found things that I could do for myself, take time for me, which I wasn't doing, and that allowed me to, call my agents, and our conversation wasn't about business. It just became, I'm doing this. And doesn't matter how uncomfortable you are. Nobody knows your business, especially me. You don't have to share, but go and do this. And even if you just ask yourself the questions, that is enough of a step for you forward to, check in with yourself. And I in the beginning, I was doing it every week. Now I'm down to about every other week, and maybe if I'm lucky, every 3 weeks, but I'm doing it still, because I find, I had to check in with myself, because I gave away so much of myself, thinking I was going to be able to reward myself by going away with my family. And when that didn't happen, we don't want to start bleeping out the things I said to myself, but I said to myself a lot of things. Like, I really got angry, and I got angry at life, and I got angry at the situation. And I thought, I'm doing all this work, and I'm there, and everybody can count on me, and I can't have this time with my family. And how long is this going to last? And then, right? Yeah. You go down. And I'm an open book. I want to share those stories with people, because people look at me and they say, wow, Tanya, you really got it all together. And I'm like, if you only knew, it's every day is not roses and chocolates. And some months, most days are worse than others. I just found that through my business, this was the way I could keep on track when I felt I'm coming off track. If I needed a check-in. And sometimes there was just days where I turned the phone off, closed the light, and sent my kids to their rooms to do their work, and watched Real Housewives all day, because I'm like, I'm not dealing with life today. Just not. Real Housewives it is. And then, the next day, pick yourself back up and go and do it. So and when you talk to people, a lot of people have that story. They're afraid to share. So when I go out and I start sharing it, they're like, wow, okay, so this happened to me, and this is where I'm at. And I'm like, we're all human, and we're all just trying to figure it out. But honestly, I'm so passionate about LifeWorks, because it got me just doing that questionnaire once a week in the winter months. It checked me in. I checked in with myself, and nobody was checking in with me. So I was checking in with myself, a little bit of accountability for myself too. Where am I? Where am I headed? And a little preparation for the weeks to come. So I tell everybody, and I'm a huge advocate, and I share it with anybody who wants to listen to me, and I can go on and on and on about it, because I really just love this program, and what it can do for people.
You need to be more enthusiastic, though, Tanya. So, Tanya, although realtors were permitted to do in-person business, they were encouraged to work virtually wherever possible. So when most of your life is at home and now your work is at home too, what impact did that have on you? I think you touched on it, but what impact did that have?
So on me, it was a big impact not to go into my offices and see my salespeople because, I'm a human person. I feed off of energy. I love the connection with my salespeople. I'm animated when I speak. Even on Zoom, I use my hands a lot. And, I want to bring people in and be excited. So going onto Zoom was difficult for me. I even tell people now I'm still not used to it. But, agents did a really good job making that transition into virtual training, virtual meetings with your staff, with your office, with other agents, with their clients. It was different. Tanya, this is different, but we have to do it. So I'm going to do it. And the virtual open houses was an interesting one. A lot of people did them. And they were interesting, and there were some people who were really good at it, and there were some people who weren't and didn't do it again, which is natural in the industry. But I mean, agents did what they had to do, and they followed the guidelines very well. I didn't have a lot of challenges when things came out of what had to be done and how we had to operate. And if they did do in person, they were so safe, so many precautions. And the key was communication. So either way, whether you're on the phone, in person, Zoom, communicating the intentions and the goals and what people and yourself with those people needed was really important. And I feel that helped people in their business a lot, because now you just can't kind of make a motion to something and then the person looks at it and they can understand what it is. You actually have to be descriptive. You actually have to get into the nuts and bolts of everything. And so agents adapted really well, but I mean, they were starving to get back to a little normal, back to the way it was. Open houses are permitted now, though there are not that many. I don't see a lot anyways in my neighborhoods that I'm in. But there were agents who still wanted to do them because they just wanted to be in the house. They followed the COVID protocols, 2 people at a time, sent everything. But the fact that people were coming and they could walk them through together, it just gave them confidence and renewed energy. So they did what they had to do, and they did it well. But I think a lot of them were happy to try to bring back some of what they were used to doing. And I might get flack for saying it, but it's the truth. That I don't like to say what people want to hear. I'm telling you what I know for sure. And I know for sure that people want to get back to the way they used to do business with the tweaking of technology in it. But they did adapt. I did see it through everywhere. Realtors adapted and did what they had to do to get the business done and be there for their clients.
Paula, that was a great answer, and so many other. And I'm going to take part of that and ask Paula about work-life balance tips. We heard some great ones from Tanya. What else have you used? What have you recommended that you can kind of share with us? Because there's so many different ways of making sure the work-life balance is balance.
Yeah, absolutely, and happy to do so. But I just want to sort of pause a bit and say how I had to smile a bit when Tanya's way of getting away from real life is watching Real Housewives. So anyway, I think we can all relate to that in some respect. I think we have to kind of look at work. We talk about work-life balance a lot, but it's actually a bigger need that we have. We have a need as human beings to stimulate ourselves in different ways and have different experiences. So I'm going to turn it a little bit more clinical. When you think about what your brain needs, it needs to have different types of experience. You need to have the type of experience where you feel accomplished. You're doing work, you have a challenge, you get it done. You need to have the type of experience where you're laughing, where you're having fun. A different part of your brain is stimulated. You have to have that experience where you have even just blank space and you're able to explore and feel creative. You have to have that experience where you feel just connected and a sense of belonging with someone else. And if you're only doing one thing in your life, if you only have one path, if all of your hours in the day are work and then not work, then you don't have that variety of experiences. Your brain essentially is malnourished, if you want to put it like that. You need to have that different type of stimulation. And if you're not sure what I'm saying is true, think about kids. Like I say, you learn everything about what you need as an adult by just focusing on what kids need. And if you have a child who does nothing but does their academic work and then does nothing, just work and nothing, just school and nothing, school and sleep, that's not a healthy childhood. That's not going to be healthy in any way, shape, or form. You need that variety, and we need it just as much when we're 47 as when we are 17 or 7. So I think that it is important when we're thinking about work-life balance, don't think about it as the time I'm taking away from my work to do something that maybe isn't quote unquote productive. Think about it as protecting your brain. Think about it as protecting your health. Think about it as making sure that you do have that variety of experiences, because guess what? You will actually be better in everything that you do when you have that.
That's amazing. Can't agree more. REA partnered with LifeWorks in June 2020 to offer our members and their families support during this particularly challenging time. Paula, can you talk a bit more about the resources LifeWorks offers?
Yeah. I mean, what LifeWorks is there for is to be there for you 24/7, 365. And we know that different people have different experiences at different points in their life. So, it's 24/7, 365. You can call and you can, if you're in any kind of deep state of stress, it could be something about yourself. It could be something about your family. You're worried about, your spouse's drinking or your child, it's not come home, anything. But it's also there when you're not in crisis, and especially for that. So we also have this app where you can help build your resilience and your well-being on an ongoing basis. I would absolutely encourage everybody to do what Tanya did and to take those assessments to understand where you are at this moment in a very objective way, because we have a wonderful way of, as human beings, as talking our way out of reality. You see something and it's not convenient to see it. You feel it and it's not convenient to feel it. So we ignore a lot of things that we need to pay attention to. And this really just helps you understand what you shouldn't ignore and understand where you're strong as well and where you need to continue doing what you're doing. So it really is a health check, a mental well-being, physical, social, financial well-being, health check, and helps you to your next step. The app itself isn't just the assessment. There's so many resources. There's information, there's tools, there's self-guided programs, there's breathing and meditation. And again, you can have access to a coach or a counselor whenever things just feel a little bit overwhelming. And I really want to stress the point that even though there's professionals there when you're in crisis, and some of us will be in crisis at different points in our life, it's not just for crisis. Just a little bit feeling overwhelmed, a little bit feeling like you have that need to reach out to someone else and you're not really sure who, a little bit confused about something. very often you don't even, it's a one session, one conversation, or even half, or even a few minutes. It helps you get grounded and helps you be strong. So you can look at LifeWorks as your partner to be the strongest you can be and the best that you can be, no matter what's going on in your life.
Tanya, you talked about your experience and your first experience with it, downloading the app and doing the questionnaires, and they're very short, as you mentioned. So you've had a very good first impression of it. So I'm going to ask you, what part of LifeWorks have you found to be the most helpful to you personally, now that you've kind of explored a lot of different avenues of it?
So, I'm a reader, so I'm always about reading and taking the notes and jotting down ideas. So whenever I'm, I'll take note of what's there, what's available to read, and then I read, and then I start plastering things on my walls. Right? It's a tool, right? So I read something, I'm like, I love this word, I love this idea. I start writing it on cardboard, and I put it all over my dining room, which is my office, because my kids took everywhere else in my house. But the tools, and then I've looked into speaking with financial advisor, because for myself too, right? Like, when the pandemic hit, you worry, right? You don't know where your business is going, and you're in sales. So, and then from there, I also talked to other people, and I thought, let me get a feel. Has anybody else I know who's a realtor looked at LifeWorks? And I was surprised that after our first conference, I had about 5 people I know in the industry who actually spoke to grief counselors, who spoke to trainers. And so it was good, because it's like Paula says, it's not just when you're in crisis. There was somebody who's like, I'm home with my kids. I need to figure out how I'm going to feed them. We got to do activities. They went download the app, and they went and they were in contact with someone. So I liked my flexibility. I liked that I could take it as far as I wanted to go. Because I'm a reader, I did everything by reading, watched some videos, and that worked for me. And then I made it all visual. But I liked the fact that this is as far as I could take it in that moment. But if I wanted to take it further, I could have easily just picked up the phone and taken it further. And that's what I liked about it. And so when I go out and I talk to people about it, I tell them all the time, I'm like, you are totally, if you feel like you're not in control of anything that's going on around your world, when you go this way, when you get into the program, you are totally in control of how far you take it and what avenue you want to take. So if there's anything you need to know that you've got security about, it's yourself and how far you take this with LifeWorks. And that's how I'm able to share with people how passionate I am about it. Because it's good for, OREA has been generous with the program, and it's good for us realtors, it's good for our spouses, it's good for our children. And when you say children, I'm like, I'm all in. We're as adults, we're going through our emotions as adults, where we can comprehend and understand a bit better the world. I have twin boys that are 14, my daughter's 9, and when I'm telling them we're not playing soccer, we're not going to hockey, no, we are not going to the park because the park is closed. How do you deal with that? We're a social, busy family. So for me, it was, how do I communicate with 14-year-olds and 9-year-olds when I can't send them to their extracurricular activities? That gave me a break from being mom. It was tough. It was, I can smile and laugh about it now, but in that moment, it was tough. It hurt. It just hurt, because you're dealing, and now I'm, dealing with my sons who want to cry, but I'm 14, I'm not supposed to cry. And I'm like, oh, no, you cry, but let's let it out. All fine, let's sit at the table, hold hands, and we're crying. It's all good. Because they don't know how to, right? They've been on the go for so long. So this was the greatest thing that we could have done for our realtor community, was partner up with LifeWorks. And especially if we're, parents with young kids, I'm sure that the more people that hear about this and know that this is available for them, they'll get into it. because learning to communicate with our kids 24/7 without going to school and teaching them how we have to hold back because of the situation we're in as a world, that's not easy because we're not used to having those. We don't know how to have those conversations because we're just used to being free and going. So that helped me learn how to communicate with my kids and explain to them. I could do it with the realtors. They're adults. We have a different way of speaking to each other. I couldn't do it with my 14 and 9-year-old because I never had to. And they don't understand it the way we do. So I tell everybody, log in, read, call. And as far as you want to take it, you take it. But it works. It works.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. When I logged in, the one thing that I took away, it reinforced and reminded me how important exercise was to me. Mm-hmm. And I am 5 times a week at Orange Theory to make sure I exercise, and it's good for obviously for your physical health, but I notice more importantly, it's great for my mental health. The app encouraged me and reminded me to do that. Before we go, let's leave the listeners with a key takeaway, something they can implement in their life today that can help improve their mental health and well-being. So Paula, what are some of the little things that you can work into your daily routine that can help you be proactive about your mental health?
Yeah, so I'd say 2 things. I'd reinforce the importance of that variety of your life and connections with other people. But one thing that we haven't spoken about, which is we've seen in research how important it is for your mental well-being, is gratitude. And, it's important to sort of understand and be focused on the fact that you might have a warm place to live. You might have, some connections, things might not be perfect, but it does change your brain when you actually focus on being grateful for what you can be grateful for. And even if you're struggling with that, then show gratitude to someone else for what they're doing, and that you're observing what they're doing for you. And just showing that other person that gratitude and recognition also will benefit you.
This has been a very, very a great conversation. I've enjoyed talking to both of you. Is there anything else either of you would like to share before we wrap up this interview?
The only thing that I would say is just to echo the fact that Aurea is doing a very good thing by offering support of LifeWorks. And I would really encourage everyone to download the app. You will absolutely get something out of it. Everybody gets something different. Everyone gets something different out of the support that's available. But this is a good thing for your well-being, your career. So why not use it?
I have to agree with Paula 100%. Download the app and get started. And even if you just stop with the questionnaire, it's eye-opening what it says back to you anyways. So go and do that. And talk to someone. That's like I tell everybody, you can call me because there's no judgment. I listen, we cry together. We laugh. It's all good. But, just take some time for you because it's really okay. It's okay to take some time for you and high five yourself. I'm reading a new book. So high five yourself. It does change how you start your morning.
Fantastic, guys.
That was a great conversation. Now, before we go, I want to remind you that all Aurea members and their families have access to LifeWorks, a well-being solution that provides users with 24/7 access to counselors, specialists, and self-guided resources for dealing with all of life's moments. Visit aurea.com/LifeWorks for more information and to access the service. The dream of home ownership is slipping further out of reach for Ontarians across the province. Visit aurea.com/affordable homes to read Aurea's plan to bring affordability home. And join us in calling on our leaders and policymakers to help make this a reality. That's aurea.com/affordable homes. I'm also excited to share that the AREA Standard Forms team just launched The Standard, a live weekly series that provides realtors with an opportunity to directly connect with the Standard Forms experts in real time. Visit aria.com/The Standard to register and watch past episodes. Get your Standard Forms questions answered today. That's aria.com/The Standard. And finally, don't forget to check out realheart.ca to read the inspiring stories of realtors giving back to their communities and to share your story. That's realheart.ca. That's it for today. From AREA President David Oikle and myself, David Bastel. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Visit aria.com/podcast for more information, links, and a full list of our episodes to date. New episodes are out the second Tuesday of every month.